The anti-Hawkeyes. If you're not familiar, look it up. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, Iowa. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football, Iowa. Join us for our weekly show, Tuesdays, 4:30 Central Time, with Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We dive into Iowa football analysis each and every week on Tuesday, and of course, join Corey after every Iowa football game. And oh, what a game it was on Saturday. Hawkeyes win 7-3. They did not score a touchdown to make that 7 points. Field goal and 2 safeties. Every successful football program has an identity. Look to the successful programs across the country, and I am grouping Iowa in with successful football programs across the country over the past 10, 15, 20 years since Kirk Ferentz has been running the program. Everybody has an identity. Iowa's identity is very clear. They win on defense and special teams. And on Saturday against South Dakota State, those two units had to be awesome, sterling, perfect practically to win this game, 7-3. Now, for those other programs, they have identities, and that's a good thing. But the non-identity units, whether that's defense or special teams or offense or passing the football, running the football, whatever it is, they contribute. They support the other units that are the strength, and they are not necessarily weaknesses as much as they are just not outstanding, top-of-the-line elite units. For Iowa football, I cannot think of another program in the country that continues to build this narrative. That is true. Defense wins everything. Special teams, sterling, phenomenal. The offense, putrid and getting worse. We posted a video a few months ago outlining offense production or lack thereof for Iowa football over the past 15 years because we had to go back to 2006 since the last time Iowa posted a top 50 statistical offense in America. I am not a complete nerd, junkie, geek when it comes to stats. They are meaningful. There's no question. They reflect the performance on the field. They're not everything. They need to be put into context. But when you rank, and Iowa's offense is not ranked in the top 50 in the nation in a full season since 2006, that's not just a trend. That is ineptness. So after ranking number 121 in the nation out of 130 teams, we talk about it every week. We thought it was some type of anomaly that you could basically run between the tackles and go with basic play action passes off of that. And statistically, it's almost improbable, impossible for Iowa to be worse, considering look across the nation and look at the lack of talent, offensive talent on many programs across the nation, that Iowa simply, by executing basic plays, would be better than 7 offenses in America. Well, they're off to a start in which they're better than basically no one in America. That was an incredibly inept performance, pathetic performance by the Iowa offense. They win at 7-3 over South Dakota State. And consider this, they didn't score a touchdown to make it 7-3. If you haven't heard, field goal and 2 safeties. That has not been done since 2000. If you want to consider that an accomplishment, the first since 2000. I looked over the scores covering 92 college football games that have been played thus far in a young 2022 season. 92 college football games. Therefore, 184 teams have posted a score. Only 16 of the 184, 16 have posted less points than Iowa football. That would be Maine, Grambling, South Dakota, Norfolk State, South Dakota State, of course, because they lost to the Hawkeyes 7-3. Central Connecticut, Illinois State, Sam Houston, Temple, Northern Arizona, Alabama A&M, Long Island. I don't really keep track of their games, and Wyoming. Have you caught anything there? 9 of those teams were shut out, so they definitely scored less points than Iowa's offense, which scored 3 technically. We'll get to that in just a second. So 16 teams out of 184 scored less than Iowa. None of those teams are Power 5 teams. None of them. Only 2 of them are even Group of 5 teams. The rest, FCS teams taking on Power 5 teams and getting blasted, of course. 9 of those being shutouts. We saved 2 scores here. Oregon scored 3 against Georgia. Utah State scored 0 against Alabama, 55-0. Those 2 defenses, my goodness, they are in the realm of Iowa, just with a lot more talent. Georgia, Alabama, along with possibly Iowa, maybe Wisconsin, the best defenses in the country. So, incredible in a negative way. Spencer Petras, 11 of 25, 109 yards, and a pick. So we completed passes for 10 yards per completion. 11 of 25. I didn't do the math. It's about 42%. The running game, 36 attempts against an FCS opponent, 57 yards. A good FCS opponent, but still, there are 100 teams in the nation that are better than South Dakota State. Okay, let's take out Petras' sack yardage because the offensive line did not pass protect. I did not watch this game, but I watched the extended highlights. I saw all the key plays, and I don't think I've ever seen an extended highlights. I'm talking about 18 to 20 minutes that looked like what I watched, because typically in these highlight packages, they show you the key plays in a drive that leads to a scoring drive, of course, touchdown or field goal. So the 14-yard pass, the 13-yard run, the 20-yard completion. These were basically just anything that resulted in a first down for the offense, or the sack, or the negative play that resulted in punting back and forth. And they showed a ton of punts. I never saw so many punts, and they were exceptional. I don't mind the punting game. It works to a certain extent. The punting game has saved Iowa over the years, and specifically in recent years. So the running backs, take out the Petras sacks. 31 carries, 82 yards against an FCS opponent. 2.7 yards per carry. That's atrocious. Iowa, 3 for 14 on third down conversions. 3 of 14. You got to be in the 45% range. And against an FCS opponent, should be in the 60% range. 3 of 14. And this is the stat that really hit me. Iowa's average field position, the 40-yard line. You would think with this ineptness in scoring, 3 points, the offense scored 3, the defense scored 4. That's another favorite stat. Defense outscoring the offense, 4-3. Is that the average field position, they were not pinned down inside the 15-yard line all day, where there would be still no excuse, but you could understand somewhat. No, the average starting position, field position for the Hawkeyes, the 40-yard line. They couldn't drive it 25 yards to kick a field goal. Their one scoring, in quotes, scoring drive, 3 plays, 5 yards, kicked a field goal. So the offense set it up, obviously. The defense set it up for the Hawkeyes. Punt, return for 10 yards, I believe, Arlen Bruce. And then they didn't move the ball, and they kicked a field goal. That was the scoring drive. 3 plays, field goal. Wow. 13 possessions, 6 3-and-outs, 4 of 7 3-and-outs in the second half. If Iowa was playing any one of about 100 teams in the country, they would have lost this game. The defense would have still been remarkable, but the offense on the other side would have been good enough to make a few plays, and they would have lost this game by a touchdown or 10 points against almost anybody, certainly anybody in the Power 5, you would think. Or if they didn't have one of the top 3 to 4 defenses and special teams units in the country, and I don't know that anybody can brag that. Even Georgia and Alabama. We'll see about Ohio State and Clemson's defenses. Wisconsin as well, with a shutout on Saturday. But I don't know if any of those teams put the defense with the special teams to the effectiveness of the Hawkeyes. If they don't have that defense and special teams, they don't win this game. Okay, what's going wrong here? Well, the offensive line has underperformed. It did last year, even with the best center in the country. We know that, but it was even worse on this day. Spencer Petras had little time to throw on many of the dropbacks. They were missing, to their defense, of course, arguably their 2 best receivers, in Nico Reganey and Keegan Johnson, out, but it's not like they're throwing the ball 50 times and getting it to those players anyway. They're not great players. They're their best wide receivers. Okay, those guys were gone. And Spencer Petras was bad, and I should probably post all the transfer quarterbacks that I ranked during the off season that played on Saturday because they all did better and they all played against better defenses. But how about this? This is a simple suggestion. Brian Ferentz, watch other offenses play. Watch other offenses play, because you would figure, even with poor execution from the offensive line, even with Spencer Petras being scattershot, throwing one or two good passes, then two or three bad passes, and just being so inconsistent throwing the ball, being accurate, that you could scheme plays and then plays off of other plays. Good offensive coordinators set up a defense. Study successful offenses. Study offenses that with similar personnel challenges. You don't necessarily need to study Ohio State's offense or fill in the blank, one of the best offenses in the country, Oklahoma's offense. You could, but I would think that they would want to study offenses that are similar, and they would get some ideas. I see it all day on Saturday, every weekend during college football seasons, where teams with limited resources, personnel, i.e. talent on offense, can still draw up plays and sequences of plays. It's not just about, this is a great play, this is a trick play. It's not about trick plays, although, hey, in this kind of game, throwing out a trick play that chucks the ball downfield 40 yards wouldn't be the worst thing. You throw a pick, big deal. You pin them back just like a punt. Give it a shot. They should have thrown some trick plays probably in this game. But trick plays aside, they don't win games in and of themselves. A concept to the offense that, again, builds an identity. You need to have an identity on both sides of the ball and special teams. You need to have an identity. Every good team has an identity. This one does, as we talked about off the top. But the offense, each unit, the offense needs to have an identity first and foremost. And then it needs to be more creative. And I'm not typically the guy that says, oh, the play caller sucks. It's all the play caller. You can call better plays. If the plays are executed, they usually work. But this offense obviously needs help. And it's not getting it from its play caller, Brian Ferentz. All right. That's my look at Iowa football following a sterling 7-3 win over South Dakota State. Your thoughts right here at the Voice of College Football, Iowa. And again, every Tuesday, get here. Bring your comments and questions. We will answer them, Corey and myself, right here at the Voice of College Football, Hawkeyes.